Hello to everyone. I think that it's time to start, right?
We need to call again Namrata back because she switched for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm here, Irina.
All right.
Okay.
Well, all right. Let me start then. I'm delighted to welcome all of you today at our second webinar in this series of discussions, reporting and analytics of value creation. And Professor Stefano is leading this series. So we are at School of Finance, Higher School of Economics, and this is our new online program, which is developing these webinars. Well, what we will have today, what we will have a look at today is actually we will have two main parts of our webinar. The first part will be devoted to our respectful guests' presentations, and the second part will be devoted to our participants' questions, which we are very much looking through the questions and answers panel. Well, the structure is as follows: welcoming and introductions. Then we will have 3 presentations from our guests, and then we will move to questions and answers and to the discussion. Now, the webinar, let me set some goals for today's webinar. Namely, we will discuss recent news in sustainability and value creation relationships. We will have a look at the change in non-financial information and consider the impact on financial analysis and business analytics of the new legal and standard setting requirements. We invited today our respectful guests, and let me now make introduce our guests. Professor Stefano Zambon from the Ferrara University. Stefano is professor of accounting and business economics. Also, he is the Secretary General for WICI and for the new Italian Foundation for Business Reporting. We will also have presentation made by Namrata Rana today, and Namrata is Director for Strategy and Brand at Futurescape in India. Namrata has an extended experience in sustainable reporting and value creation issues. And Dr. Irina Ivashkovskaya, who is our academic supervisor, professor, head of School of Finance at Higher School of Economics. And let me start with giving a floor for several words, introduction words to Professor Irina. And then we will start with presentations made by our guests.
Thank you very much. And I also would like to say hello to all the participants. And being the head of the School of Finance of our university, I just at the beginning want to spend just a few minutes explaining a little bit about our university. The university is called High School of Economics. It's rather new, brand new university in Russia and became a leading university despite it's really very new. It has a little bit of history about this. Is about 26 years of existence of our university. But nowadays, this university is highly positioned in the global university rankings in the area of economics, in the area of accounting and finance. And that became the university #1 in the area of economics and accounting in finance also in Russia. And it became very influential in terms of the concepts of teaching, approaches, frameworks, subjects, and different types of education programs at the bachelor level and of course master degree level. And being a professor, I'm a head of the School of Finance, which is like a business division, close to the business division in a company because it has a variety of subjects inside. We teach different types of accounting. We teach corporate finance. We teach valuation. We teach financial markets. We teach financial institutions. We teach insurance and risk management. So we teach everything in the area of finance and different faculties of our university. We are located in Moscow, in the Moscow campus of our university. Our university has also different campuses in one in St. Petersburg, not only in Moscow, one at Nizhny Novgorod, which is a regional city at the river Volga, and the third one in the city which is called Perm, in the Ural Mountains. So we have 4 different campuses, and Moscow campus, of course, was at the very beginning. It's still central campus of our university. So we are teaching in Moscow campus, but we of course stay in touch with all our campuses. Why we are today presenting that topic? Because we decided that we are now in the period of revolution in business analytics. We are in finance, and everything we are going to discuss today would be from the accounting and finance point of view. And we will be looking at this very important period in business analytics, I guess, from the, of course, accounting and finance point of view. And our dear colleagues will then proceed to their presentations. I would like to say that with Stefano Zambon, we've been cooperating for many years, I guess from the 2006, when Stefano started very important activities in the World Intellectual Capital Initiative. And of course, he will say a few words about this when he starts speaking. We also invited Namrata Rana. We start cooperating with Namrata Rana these days. And she was recommended by the person who is now working for PwC Global, moved to United States, and they are colleagues and friends, and we know that person, but we will be familiar now with Namrata Rana. I do hope she will be part of our project. And today's webinar, as also Anna already mentioned, is strictly related to our new online master degree program at Coursera platform, which is called Master of Business Analytics. So we're trying to summarize important events in the area of business analytics from accounting and finance perspective first. And that's why then afterwards, at the very end of our discussion today, in that second webinar, I will be talking about the program itself, how we develop that vision, what we're going to suggest. I would like also to mention that in June, we'll be having the third webinar in the series that Stefano Zambon kindly developed for us, being in the heart of these changes of business analytics. And the third webinar will be focused on country spots, on country cases, on different trends in different countries, including Russia, of course, including European countries, including Italy, of course, including India, I hope, and including Turkey, because we already talked to people from Turkish universities. So I'm now switching the floor, giving the floor to Stefano Zambon. Please, Stefano, come in.
So let me first of all say thank you very much for this invitation to the second seminar, for presenting the new master program of the Higher School of Economics. It's great to be here with Irina, Anna, and Namrata, and of course Albina. So the last time I was presenting kind of a new landscape for value creation. And today what we're going to do is to enter more into details about the future landscape, and in particular about KPIs and new business analytics measures and information. Because of course the situation is changing dramatically in the last few months. So I think it might be of interest for your students, your potential students, to know about this situation, which is involving all of us. It's not something about just Europe or India or Russia, but it's something that is a completely new scenario. So maybe these are the questions that I would like to address. So this is the I just have a few slides to provide you with this new landscape and few considerations about the future. So I just wanted to call it sustainability and value creation information, all wine in new bottles. Just is a bit of a provoking thought, of course. Let's see what is the situation. The situation is that all the sustainability reports and value creation reports are prepared today in accordance to some of the standards and frameworks that are on the marketplace. They're not just one, not just one. There are several different opportunities to produce your sustainability and value creation reports. The most diffused international are the standards of GRI, but also, of course, integrated reporting framework is important, but not only, of course, the situation, as you can see, there are in front of you, there are many logos. CDP, which used to be Carbon Disclosure Project, which is now CDP, the Climate Disclosure Standards Board, CDSB, GRI is as I said, is the most diffused standards, integrated reporting, and American SASB, Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, but there's also WICI, we're going to talk about this, the Global Network on Intangibles reporting, and last but not least, the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. We're going to talk about this. So generally, this is known as TCFD. So this very often is referred to as the alphabet soup. So many different and concurrent entities proposing new standards, new measures, new information and disclosures, so which creates to some extent some confusion, understandably, I should admit. I try to, for your potential students and those that are interested, to make a little bit of a synthesis, a summary of the reporting, of the corporate reporting world. So you see on the top parts of this figure, you have basically financial reporting. We know about financial reporting. You have ISB in many countries, International Accounting Standards Board, the ISB standards. If you're from the United States, you have the FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board. And of course, you have also people and also related associations, international associations, dealing with valuations, like the IVSC, the International Valuation Standards Council, and the ISO. What I'm going to focus on is in the lower part of this picture, which is about basically the standards about sustainability and value creation. And sustainability, we just said that we have very many different actors, if I can say, if you can use this expression, and which is GRI, TCFD, SASB, ISO, CDSB, CDP. And also you have the WICI network that I was the chair of WICI network of the global network for 2015-2019. And you see on the left-hand side, you have the IRC, so the International Integrated Reporting Council, which is trying to put the whole thing together. And on the right-hand side, you have technology, which is, of course, another important piece of the picture, which generally is XBRL. So it's about extensible business reporting language. So I understand that it might be a little bit confusing, but the situation is not an easy situation. What is true, what we can capture from this picture is the fact that there is a lot, there are many proposals, important proposals about new measures and information at the corporate level. So clearly it is something important, something developing quite fast. In fact, I would like to stress this aspect, the evolution of sustainability reporting standards, and of course, value creation reporting as well. I must say that literally few months ago, which may sound a little bit strange, but literally a few months ago, from say August, September 2020, there's been a very rapid evolution in the whole picture, both in Europe and outside Europe. In the third seminar, we're going to address specifically the what's going on in Europe. But just for the time being, let's say that the rapid evolution in this area regarded both Europe and the global scenario. What with the aim? What was the aim? The aim here is the standardization of sustainability information. So getting out of the alphabet soup, so to speak. So for instance, in you, just quickly, and as I said in the third seminar, we're going to get much more into this. A new version of the directive on sustainability information. Directive is a legislative act on sustainability information has been put forward a few days ago. And also, European Union is going to prepare itself to have its own European sustainability standards, asking EFRAG, European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, to deal with the issue of standards on for sustainability reporting in Europe. But not only in Europe, I said. At the global level, the new, incredible, to some extent, completely new change is the fact that IFRS Foundation is the foundation inside of which there is the ISB. So the IFRS Foundation is going to establish a second board, for which will be a kind of a sister board or no brother board, I'm not sure, about the sustainability reporting. So there will be standards that will be issued by IFRS Foundation through this second board, the International Sustainability Standards Board, ISSB, for sustainability information. At the beginning, they already said that this will start, they will start from climate change. So climate change is perceived to be the most important global issue. We discussed a little bit about this also in the first seminar. But progressively, the ISSB, the new ISSB, will also involve all the sustainability issues related to this, related to corporate information. But it's not finished. At the international level, there's also an important development, because the 5 of the most important sustainability standard setters try to get together and they form the so-called Group of 5 to try and working together, trying to issue some documents, some standards or initial prototype standards together. And this already occurred in August. And in December, the Group of 5 issued a standard on climate change, which of course is perceived as the priority in many respects. But it's not enough. International Integrated Reporting Council, the IRC, are going to basically to merge with the American SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. This is going to take place end of this month, end of May. So it's really, up-to-date information, and will be officially announced on the 9th of June. So for you to understand that, so SASB and IRC will get together and they form the Value Reporting Foundation, VRF. So to simplify the landscape of the sustainability standards, sustainability reporting standards, sorry. So what will be the probably picture in the next few years? I provided you with something really exclusive. This is a slide coming from a presentation from Janine Gouillot, that is the CEO of the chief executive of the SASB and the incoming Value Reporting Foundation CEO. She presented this on the 6th of May at the IRC Council meeting that to which I belong. And this is an interesting conception of what is going to be in the near future, the new reporting, corporate reporting picture, which of course automatically this will produce, of course, different business analytics measures, of course. That's why we're talking about it. As you can see, on the top of the house, or this, so let's call it house, we have integrated reporting framework. On the left-hand side, you will have financial accounting, so ISB and FASB, with all the principles, industry agnostic standards. Industry agnostic means generic, okay? It's a difficult expression to say something simple. So generic standards. And of course, both ISB and FASB have industry-specific standards that apply to specific sectors, of course. But it's even more interesting. So this is something we know about this. It's more interesting, probably the right-hand side of this picture, of this house, so to speak. As you can see, on top of this, at the global level, they see the IFRS, the International Sustainability Standards Board. We just mentioned that. The IFRS, the new IFRS Foundation Standards Board, will be relying for principles and reporting framework on WICI, the World Intellectual Capital Initiative, on CDSB, Climate Disclosure Standards Board, and TCFD, the Task Force of the Financial Stability Board on climate-related financial disclosures. For generic standards, one possibility will be the World Economic Forum, because World Economic Forum proposed, I think, 21 metrics to be applied across all the industries. So that might be a beginning. And you can see industry-specific standards will be probably delivered by the American SASB, that is going to form, let me repeat, with the IRC, the Value Reporting Foundation. But outside the house, but very close to the house, you will have GRI standards, and of course, the new directive that has just been proposed by the European Commission for sustainability reporting in the European Union. Why they are out, or they appear to be out, is because GRI standards, as well the proposal for a new directive in Europe, they address the more stakeholder needs for information. Whilst on the contrary, IFRS, the standards board, the new standards board, will address, together with the TCFD, CDSB, SASB, and so on, will address the needs for information of investors. So basically, there's a slight difference, which is not that negligible, between the right-hand side of the house, which is about basically information for investors and for, of course, sustainability-related investments, and on the GRI, on the right-hand side of the house, where there will be sustainability reporting, which is more addressing the global and general public needs for information from companies about sustainability issues. So I think this is a exclusive for this seminar, and I'm happy to present that. You will not find this exactly like this around at the moment. So let me get into more details about this new house of sustainability reporting and value creation reporting. On the top of the house, we just said there will be the framework about integrated reporting. Framework of integrated reporting is, I think, quite well known. There's been a second edition just issued in January 2021. It's a great framework, many interesting information. I would really invite you to get into this, have a look. It's translated in many languages. So it's not difficult to have access. It's freely, of course, downloadable in the website of the IRC. But is the top of the house. Let me get back one sec. You see, is on the top of the house. So it's not dealing with particular KPIs, indicators, measures. So it will be like the roof of the house. But let me also point out one important aspect for all of us is the new vision of what is a company doing and how is companies creating value. I think this is something interesting for all of us, I think, to know. And this is called the octopus. I mean, friendly speaking. As you can see on the left-hand side, there are resources coming into the company, into the organization in general. These are called capitals, so resources, financial capital, manufactured, or if you want, material capital, intellectual or organizational capital, human capital, which is, of course, human resources, social and relationship capital, all the relationship the organization has with the context, and natural or environmental capital. So all these capitals get into this. These are the inputs, of course, into the company, into the organization. Company has a governance, has a strategy, of course, and a resource allocation. They have to support some to face some risks and catch some opportunities. There's a performance. There's a future, of course. You see that all this creates all these capitals get into business activities, and business activities produce outputs, which means basically results. Number of pieces, number of customers served, number of shops, for instance. But all the two of those, both business activities and outputs, create outcomes, impacts on on the capitals that are being used, on the resources that are being used. Of course, the outcomes can be positive or negative over the short, medium, and long term. And of course, you can see on your right-hand side, the capitals that are being changed by the activity of the organization of the company. And of course, all this change, these capitals change are the inputs, the new inputs for the same process. So there's, of course, an iteration, reiteration of the circle. So I wanted to just mention this to signal to you the complexity of value creation activity, according to the IAR, the Integrated Reporting Framework, which I think it's an interesting aspect to be considered. Other aspects, let me just get into more details about analytics, business analytics from other sources. For instance, it's very relevant, the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. I'll just remind you that this is a task force set up by all central banks of the world, the Financial Stability Board. Financial Stability Board is basically all central banks of the world. So of course, by definition, it's very important. And they released 3 years ago, basically a number of recommendations that in certain countries, these recommendations are already law. For instance, New Zealand and the UK. But other countries, of course, are going to address this. And the IFRS Foundation already said that the new board, the ISSB, we just seen, the first thing we'll take up and we'll build on the recommendations by the TCFD. So that's why I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on this, given the importance for the new new business analytics that we have to face. The Financial Stability Board established, as I said, a task force on the TCFD, on climate-related financial disclosures. Of course, and the chairman of this task force was appointed is Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg that used to be, the mayor also of New York City, and is of course one of the major therapy persons for SASB, in the American SASB, and it's and of course is the owner of the Bloomberg Information, that is a very well-known company for corporate information around the world. What is the plan here? The plan is to try to help companies, and especially financial companies, so banks, insurances, asset management companies, to understand the risks and opportunities linked to climate change. So this risks and opportunities, you can see, they should enter the strategic planning, the risk management of these organizations, especially, as I said, financial organizations. They should determine financial impact of all these risks and opportunities linked to climate change. And these, of course, financial impacts means cash flow statement, and of course means income statement and balance sheet. So you see, the problem is, so far, accounting has always been perceived, different from all these issues, far away, detached from that. Clearly, the message from TCFD is no. This is going to change immediately. Climate change produces a number of changes that are particularly important for financial companies or like banks, insurances, asset management, and so on. And then their strategic planning and their risk management should adapt in understanding the financial impact. Which kind of information TCFD is requiring? That's the four widely adoptable recommendations, as they say. You see there, so there are information and KPIs about governance of the organization, about the strategy, of course, always from a climate-related perspective. Okay, that is the focus. So what governance is doing for climate-related change, climate change-related issues, what strategy, how strategy is addressing climate-related risks and opportunity, how risk management is addressing climate-related risks, and of course, which are the metrics and targets in terms of what the organization should do to reach, of course, a better climate-related mitigation of climate-related risks. Sorry. So this, I don't want to get into this. Just quickly, there was, of course, there are a number of recommendations here, but it's easy to be found also in the website of the TCFD. You see governance, strategy, risk management, metrics, and targets. And these are a series of recommended disclosure. In particular, let me stress on the metrics and targets on your right-hand side, point B, you see scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, greenhouse gases. So basically, these organizations should disclose what are the greenhouse gas emissions, not only for scope 1, which already we discussed this, I think, in the first seminar, which not only for themselves, but also upstream and downstream. Scope 2 will be upstream, scope 3 will be downstream. So it's a very challenging. Many companies, many financial companies I spoke to, they told me, you know what, this is really challenging metrics and targets. So we're just discussing about something very, very important and very changing. And not only that, all these financial organizations, they have to produce scenarios, scenario analysis, saying, okay, let's assume that the temperature will go up to 2 degrees compared to the pre-industrial era, or 1.5 or 1 degree. So, and they have to produce different scenarios for the different level of temperature in the future. So, which is, of course, pretty important and pretty difficult as well. But this is a way it's like to go to the gym, you know. You basically your body and your organization should be ready to address, you know, different scenarios in terms of climate. And in particular, as I said, so there are generally 3-4 scenarios: 2 degrees, 1.5, 1 degree, maybe less than 1 degree. And so in this respect, they should produce, and they should produce means also prepare and publish scenarios, scenario analysis on different climate-related scenarios. Another important, as I already said, GRI standards are the most diffused around the world for sustainability standards. Let me just give you a quick way how they work, and of course, which kind of information and metrics they require. Basically, GRI standards, there are 3 general universal standards applicable to all organizations, 101, 102, and 103. And there are 33 topic-specific standards divided in economic, GRI 200, you can see on your left-hand side on the bottom, environmental GRI standards, GRI 300, and social-related GRI standards, GRI 400. So this is the architecture of the GRI standards. Of course, organizations have to select and to address all the relevant topic-specific standards. How does it work? Basically, the starting point on your left-hand side is 101, the foundation. If an organization wants to produce standards in accordance with GRI, has two possibilities on your left-hand side, core and comprehensive. Core means that an organization, if they go for in accordance with core GRI standards, core means basically they have to comply with all required information and disclosures and KPIs required by, of course, the various GRI standards. Comprehensive means that an organization has to comply, decides to comply, sorry, with all the information that is required and is also just suggested. So all the reporting, basically information are included in the comprehensive mood, in the comprehensive approach. Of course, 101, 102, 103, and the specific 200, 300, 400. However, there's a third possibility to use GRI standard. As I said, in accordance, can be core or comprehensive, but there's also a possibility to use only some specific GRI standards. The so-called, this way of using GRI standards is called GRI referenced claim or GRI referenced. In any of these cases, in all the three cases, GRI requires the organization to signal their adoption of GRI standards. I remind you that GRI is an organization, multi-stakeholder organization based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, in Europe. And last organization I would like to go through with you, just to signal to you the different business analytics that are being proposed nowadays by important international organizations, is of course WICI, that is particularly close to my heart, so to speak. The World Intellectual Capital Assets Initiative Network, that's a website that I invite you to have a look at, is the only international organization dealing with intangibles related information. We already seen in the first seminar why this is important, why we have a problem with that. Today I wanted to stress the fact what WICI can provide in terms of business analytics, for a new way to look at the business analytics. As you remember, the key point is that we're missing today many information regarding basically the intangibles or intellectual assets because they are completely invisible in today's financial statements. And so this is what WICI is trying to address, this gap, this information gap regarding the intangibles. The view here is not to go against the climate related, sustainability related. No. The idea here is to put together the various aspects and the business analytics, of course, measures to construct a new view of what is sustainability. Sustainability is not only financial, is not only, of course, climate related, is not only sustainability related, but we think at the WICI that is about business sustainability. The business sustainability requires, business model strategy, of course, on top. But of course, in order to have a sustainability over time, you need also intangibles related information and the management of intangibles and the management, of course, of social environmental issues. Without one of these three, your business probably is due to disappear. WICI has, as you probably, some of you may know, an intangibles reporting framework published in September 2016. Is the only framework, international framework dealing with this reporting issues. But today I want to focus on KPIs. So we're here for a new master from HSE on business analytics, and I think this is a particularly important. So the idea here in WICI is to have an inverted pyramid, which means basically you have generic or general indicators about, of course, intangibles, industry or sector indicators, and of course you have company, organization, entity-specific indicators. So what is the first two levels, of course, generic and industry, are to be agreed to be standardized in the future. I think it's much clearer if I just show you this. So you have a generic level, which is called sector agnostic, which means generic, sector industry level of KPIs, and you have organizational entity level of KPIs. So basically, you have KPIs and analytics, business analytics measures at three levels, and which is the generic, you have industry or sector specific, and of course you have company or entity specific indicators, which are related, of course, about intangibles. We're always talking about intangibles here for WICI, of course. So, and this is interesting. This is already in the 2016 WICI framework. Interestingly enough, both Europe and the Value Reporting Foundation, I remind you, is about the merge between SASB and the IRC. Both of them, both the European Commission and the Value Reporting Foundation, have adopted exactly this approach. So you will find in the documents by Value Reporting Foundation and Commission, European Commission, exactly this. You have a sector agnostic level, and you have a sector industry level, and of course after you can have voluntarily entity level disclosures on intangibles. Which are this business, and I'm going to finish in 2 minutes. What is the examples of these new business analytics issues? Sorry, measures. This is the generic list of KPIs according to WICI. These apply to all the basically to all the sectors. We don't have the time. Clearly, you can find them in the website. You have on the top the reference to website. You can see that there are interesting generic KPIs: average age of employees, job leaving ratio, penetration of management principles, human resource development expenditure per employee, and you have a number also on R&D, of course. So you have human capital, you see KPIs on organizational capital, and of course you have also KPIs on social relational capital. These are other KPIs. Value added for employee, for instance, is a great, by experience I tell you, it's a great KPI to understand the efficiency of your organization in producing value. WICI KPIs are, remind you, an important difference. Please let me stress this very clearly. WICI KPIs are about value creation. So helping companies, helping management, helping investors to understand the capacity of value creation of an organization, whilst on the contrary, GRI, SASB, TCFD are more about sustainability related, the social environmental sustainability. So there's a bit of a change here of the perspective, which of course is important. Both of them are important. Brand strength, for instance, brand contribution to EBITDA, number of product recalls, a number of those. There are 50, as you can see. Revenues acquisition index, new customers basically is number 50. What WICI has developed is also some key risk indicators that can apply across all the industries. You can see there are 6 of those. The number 6 is particularly important, is level of reputational risk. As you can imagine, reputation is a fundamental intangible that all of us understand quite easily, quite quickly. And finally, I want to with this generic wiki KPIs. From those generic wiki KPIs, you can construct particular business analytics, new measures, new ratios. We all know our return on equity, ROE, ROI, and so on. We all know that. But these are new forms of ratios that are basically using the generic KPIs elaborated by Wiki Network. So I think all these slides will be distributed, so no problem, don't worry about this. And finally, I want to show you an example of industry-based KPIs. So far, generic or sector-agnostic KPIs. Now, very quickly, and in closing, I want to show you some example of industry KPIs on fashion luxury. In the Wiki website, you will find 10 industries KPIs. So please, you're very welcome to have a look at. How do this industry-specific KPIs work? First of all, we try to identify the value chain of that industry. We're talking about here fashion and luxury. So on the top of that, you see brand management, style design, production, distribution, and services partnering, because we thought that these are fundamental, the fundamental aspects of the value chain of that particular industry or that particular sector. And your left-hand side, you see in the column, you see the basic fundamental intangibles to have success and to produce value in that particular industry. So talent quality, customer relations, product innovation, trusted partnering, organizational flexibility, and reliable and efficient execution of the strategy. And at that point, we elaborated for each of the 6 fundamental intangibles for value creation. We elaborated a number of possible, let me stress that, KPIs that apply to this industry of fashion and luxury. They are, in this case, they're very good, very high number, but they're not compulsory. What we have here is basically a company selecting the most appropriate KPIs for its particular business model and approach to value creation. All of these KPIs are commented one by one, and also elaborating how you calculate that, each of these KPI in the following pages. So this is, of course, just an excerpt from the whole document, but there are 10 of those. We think it's very useful and it's not difficult to understand. And I want to close with this sentence. It's not difficult to understand that basically there's a new word of business analytics, and that's why I think the Higher School of Economics is doing the right step, because of course these are outside the usual financial analytics we all know, which are of course very important. We don't throw them away, okay? Don't get me wrong. But what we want to do is basically here is to associate, accompany, getting together new business analytics formulas and principles. And as you can see, there's a lot of development taking place. And so this will be, I think, a very important field also for future people, future work opportunities for people. So thank you very much. Long answer to short questions. I'm sorry, I apologize if I've been too long. Thanks a lot, Irina and Anna.
Thank you very much, Stefano, for an awesome presentation. We are always happy to hear about the news and insights into what is happening in the world of sustainable reporting and sustainable development. And now let me give a word to our second speaker, to Namrata Rana. And for our participants, I would remind that we will address all your questions after the presentations. And of course, you will get all the materials and recording just in a while after the webinar happens. Okay, now I'm giving a floor to Namrata, who will address the new challenges, new emerging challenges, and some insights into the fourth industrial revolution.
Thank you so very much. I'm delighted to be here today. And Stefano has set a very high bar with such a fabulous presentation. So I'd like to continue on the thoughts that he shared, where he talked about the fact that responsibility has now entered the halls of the financial world. The business world has always focused on creating strategies for long-term value creation, but the focus has always been on financial metrics. And so understanding the impact of companies on society has been limited. The push to create greater impact is also now coming from the financial world itself. So you have many, many senior leaders who are talking about the fact that companies need to benefit all stakeholders. They need to benefit shareholders, employees, customers, as well as the communities that they actually participate in. So what does this really mean and why is this emerging? Also, the financial world does not exist in isolation. The financial world is also part of the overall society where we actually function. And there are big changes that are happening there. For instance, we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution transformed agrarian economies into industrialized ones. The second industrial revolution brought us electric power and mass production. And the third industrial revolution was really about digital devices that were emerging. But the fourth industrial revolution, where we are right now, is a way of blurring boundaries between the physical, digital, and the biological worlds. And that is a fusion of artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and other technologies. So what does this really mean? It means that the world around us is changing in a dramatic and fundamental way. So the fourth industrial revolution is disrupting almost every industry in every country. And the breadth and depth of these changes is transforming entire production systems, how companies are run, and it's also obviously transforming governance. So what does it mean if an organization says that, we are going to become a very sustainable organization? Does it mean that automatically they start eliminating all emissions, transforming the entire value chain, and, developing new technologies? Not really. It's a step-by-step process. So you've got to look at, number one, what is your impact on climate change? Number two, what does it mean for you to be a digital organization? Digital transformation is actually key to transforming an organization into a responsible one, because technology provides scale. And that scale is something that is very essential for almost every organization across the world. The next piece is about circularity, where you start saying, all right, and these are all interrelated concepts. They're not necessarily existing in isolation, but they need to be looked at in detail. So when you look at the impact of what you do in terms of waste, in terms of systems, waste that you generate during the production process, or waste that is generated when your product, the end of life of your product, those are things that need to be looked at carefully. Also, you need to look at issues around the sustainable development goals that everybody is talking about, and also the parameters that Stefano talked about, which is around ESG, which is environment, social, and governance related issues, which is why business leadership needs to change as well. So here we are discussing issues around value creation in organizations. Value creation in organizations is also fundamentally about leadership. So you can create great reports, you can create fabulous financial and non-financial reports. But ultimately, it means not just saying the right things, but doing the right things. And that is the fundamental shift that we have to talk about when we talk about value creation. How will we create value for our customers, for our employees, for everybody else, unless we truly believe in what we do and say the right things and do the right things? Also, responsibility in the digital world can't be about what we did, right? Reporting is always post facto. I did this, right? But we are in the digital world. We are constantly consuming all kinds of products, all kinds of services in real time. Why should responsibility be post facto about what I did? Why can't it be about what I'm doing today? Why can't it be real time? And that's where we need to go. That's where we can harness the fourth industrial revolution into transforming us from where we were to where we are. And that's part of the reason why the financial ecosystem is transforming, because the financial ecosystem is now becoming digital, it is becoming social, it is also becoming sustainable. So what does it really mean for finance to become digital, social, and sustainable? Let's take a look. So first, personal finance has changed because you can transfer funds through an app from yourself to a friend. You can buy things online. There are digital currencies that are now available that are enabled through blockchain. The capital markets themselves are transforming. You can buy and sell shares online. There are numerous ways in which you can do payments and billing. Even lending has gone online. So fintech is really what is transforming. That is a function of finance as well as technology is coming together. And finance, therefore, is becoming very, very digital. The other thing that is happening is that finance is becoming sustainable. And in the previous presentation, you saw all the new standards that are being talked about. And a lot of those standards are focused around climate change. There are some additional things that are happening in the world of finance other than financial reporting. Say, for example, the IFC financial standards. There are the Equator principles for banks. There's the UNEP financial initiative, UN principles for responsible investments, and you can read all about these online. The idea is that finance that was till now just focused around making a profit for the people who actually owned those institutions is now talking about an impact on society, impact on the environment. Finance is also getting very, very social. What it essentially means is that people are talking about impact investing to actually make a change around the various issues that exist all around us. There is poverty, there is huge amounts of issues around health that you can see all around us. And all of these are not high revenue uh, areas, if you were to talk about it. So for instance, if you were to invest in an organization that is a startup that is in AI, for instance, versus something else that is about eliminating poverty, the returns may not be there. But the fact is that you will actually be impacting people at a very large to a very large extent. Therefore, impact investing or investing for change has become a very important thing. As an offshoot of that, there are also many, many new products that are being created. These products are called social impact bonds. Bonds is a bit of a misnomer, but the idea is that you can actually change the outcomes of a community, give them livelihoods, transform society in a more positive way if we were to actually focus on specific inputs to society that can actually transform lives. And that's really why finance is also getting social. And this is just a framework that we adopt in India when we actually evaluate India's top 200 companies on the responsibility parameters. And this is just an example to show you that we look at the environmental issues that are impacted by the organization, by the social issues, as well as what they do around governance when it comes to ESG. So if you were to look carefully at this matrix, you'll see that as compared to the earlier balance sheets that just focused on the financial metrics, here we are talking about climate change, natural capital, pollution, opportunities in impacting environment in a positive way. We're also talking about social opportunities in impacting communities, employees, supply chain, the health and safety of customers, employee management, employee welfare, and even important things like how do you communicate to your customers? Do you actually look at responsible advertising, right? You cannot be communicating the wrong things. So my earlier slide, which talked about the fact that say the right thing and do the right thing. And that at all points in time becomes extremely important for all of us. And then the next bit, which is governance. How do we look at board committees? What about executive management? And in governance, because we are part of the fourth industrial revolution, there is an extremely important new aspect that has been included, which is all about data and privacy. So all companies at this point in time are data companies, right? Why are they data companies? Because they're always capturing information from various aspects. So if an organization is capturing information, they're also responsible for safety and security of that data, for collecting that data in the right way, also not disclosing it or utilizing it or making wrong choices with that data that impact customers' lives. So therefore, in governance, there are also issues, new issues that are emerging around data privacy, safety, security, and that is not all. You need to actually look at these things from a long-term point of view and constantly be updated in terms of what does it mean for your organization to be actually looking at these things that earlier were not considered so relevant, but now are increasingly becoming part and parcel of everyday decision making in organizations. So responsibility in the fourth industrial revolution is also about 6 important megatrends. So while we've talked about things at a broad level, the 6 big changes that are impacting responsibility, that are impacting companies, that is impacting you and me on an everyday basis is this. There is an increase in inequalities. And we've seen that in the past year or so, ever since the pandemic started, inequalities have further increased. And inequalities is not just about having access to money, but it is also about having access to services. So for instance, there are people who do not have access to digital information. They may have the funds, but they do not have access to digital information because internet has not penetrated in those areas. If they do not have access to information, then they are actually disadvantaged, especially in a world where information is moving so fast. There are many aspects to inequalities that are there. So there are gender inequalities, there are people with disabilities who are being left behind, there are digital inequalities that exist. The other aspect is around data and algorithms. So all organizations, as I mentioned earlier, are becoming digital organizations. What it also means is that they are enabling algorithms to take decisions. And when algorithms take decisions, humans make mistakes when they take decisions. When algorithms take decisions, it is also possible that they make mistakes. And the biases of the humans that created the algorithm could also be a problem. And that is where we need to actually map what is happening in terms of our data, what is happening in terms of the algorithms that are taking decisions for us on our behalf, or are impacting our decision making. The third very important trend is one around automation. Everything is around us is getting automated. There are machines, there are robotics that are actually doing the tasks and the jobs that humans were doing earlier. So in the short run, it is likely that many people will not have the kind of jobs that they actually did earlier. And that essentially means that there is likely to be a problem in terms of skills. And what does skills really mean? It means that at some point in time, you need to actually upskill and learn new things that you actually did not have earlier. So responsibility during the fourth industrial revolution can't really be about saying that, we will generate a great report, we will do some great things, and we will say the right things all the time. But it is about better decision making. And better decision making also needs to be done in the context of the mega trends that are changing. The other mega trends that are impacting all of us, all around us, are the ones around, say, new materials and technologies. So there are new materials that are emerging, there are new technologies that are coming to the fore. And that again means that, for instance, we are talking about the fact that oil and gas is not really going to be prominent anymore. So if you're talking about renewable energy, we are talking about hydrogen as a new fuel. People need to be there to be able to have the skills to be able to adopt to these new technologies. It will also mean changes in the supply chain. The other fifth important mega trend is the one around urban living. Urban living essentially means that we all live in congested cities, we live in very polluted environments, we live in places where health is a challenge, right? It's become quite an issue for a lot of people in terms of healthcare and access to healthcare, because the cities are too polluted, too crowded, and health systems are not really updated and to the mark. And the last bit is climate change. So we've already discussed why climate change is important and how it's impacting companies as well as countries and organizations all around us. So because of these fundamental changes, so we've discussed up till now, we've discussed how the fourth industrial revolution is changing everything. We've discussed the fact that the financial system on its own is changing, and the fact that there are 6 mega trends right now that are going to only accelerate these changes. Increased inequalities, data, automation, new materials and technologies, urban living, climate change and the environment are going to transform almost everything, which is why the responsibility framework that we have need to change. So, which is not to say that the standards that Stefano talked about will change automatically or dramatically at the moment. No, they will not. They are a movement in the right direction. But why is it that people are spending so much time on these standards? They're spending so much time on these standards because the standards need to be relevant. They have not been relevant in the past. There has been great report writing, but less relevance. Now, because of all these changes, we need to move towards creating them in a better way, which is why all the changes that Stefano talked about are happening. The second bit is that organizations keep talking about the fact that, we've got to do something that is relevant to us. So they keep talking about a materiality matrix, that we will create a report, we will talk about things that are relevant basis on materiality. Well, what is materiality? Materiality is based on what you think is important. But the world around us is changing so dramatically, right? So you've got to also look at what will be relevant 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. And which is why Stefano was also talking about the fact that you need to do a scenario analysis. Also, we can't, again, as I mentioned, we can't talk about the past. We've got to talk about the future. We've got to talk about real time. Because the future is not more of the past. Because the future is changing so much, so dramatically, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, the future is going to be different. And therefore, we have to keep planning, keep looking at things from new perspectives, from new technological perspectives, new scientific perspectives that are more relevant. And the most important thing is we need to build trust. We are in a society where trust is broken. People don't believe in each other. People don't believe in organizations. People don't believe in governments. That's because in the past, everybody's said something and done something different. So if responsibility has to be built, if we need to build a new financial system, we need to build trust. And that is becoming even more important now in a technological world, because the technological world and the connected world magnifies the smallest risk. Even small, irrelevant, unimportant things can scale dramatically, very quickly, very fast, in completely unexpected ways, which is why we need a new framework for responsible choices for everybody. For organizations, at the moment it's being talked about, but people are also talking about new ways of measuring success for countries, where they're saying that GDP is not the only measure of success of a country. What about universal healthcare? Considering the current circumstances, shouldn't we be talking about universal healthcare as far more important than the GDP? I mean, it's a contentious topic, but something that we can all think about, right? So the first thing that we need to look at is trust, We need to look at public good, what is good for everyone, and we need to look at equity. And to my mind, all these three things, when they come together for people, planet, profit, and data, create the responsibility framework, which is Responsibility 4.0 for the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Namrata. Thank you very much for such an awesome presentation. And it's indeed that you have mentioned we are all living in a post-truth world, and it's quite important to address these sustainability issues and to understand how this, how much it is important over the financial issues. Well, okay, we are still receiving lots of questions from our participants, and we are so much looking forward to answering all of them. But we have another presentation for today by Irina Ivashkovskaya. So let me give a floor to Dr. Irina for a presentation.
Albina, would you please share the screen? Would you just put the slides? I mean, okay, thank you. And on big screen, if possible. Thank you very much. Again, I would like to say nice to hear everybody and my colleagues, Stefano and Namrata. They provided really a huge framework for my presentation and for new mode of thinking. I just want to extract few lessons, few summaries from what we've already heard today. The number one, I'm really grateful to Stefano Zambon, who says that he thinks on behalf of World Intellectual Capital Initiative and his colleagues, that when we are talking about the sustainability, we should talk about financial sustainability and even about business sustainability. Not just only environmental issues, but overall business sustainability. That's the lesson number one. It's very important for us now. The lesson number two, I would say, when Namrata was presenting, she already mentioned now financial ecosystems are getting very digital. And then financial ecosystems are also getting very social. So for us, it's really, again, very important because being in finance, being in financial professions, including, of course, accounting side of finance professions, we now can feel how dramatic is the shift in the requirements for the data, that we should change just overall approach to data collection, to measurement of this data, so on and so forth. The lesson number three, I'm really grateful again to Namrata, who at her last slides posed a question. Is it really still reliable to measure the success of any country by GDP growth? Why I put attention to this? Because now in our finance profession, we need to talk about so-called regenerative economy and regenerative finance. What I mean by this? We need to find a proper balance between the growth of any business, any company, and of course, overall national growth and the value on the level of the business, on the level of the company. This is like a trade-off. I'm growing, what's going to happen to my value? If I want to increase the value, what is going to happen to the growth of overall industry and overall country? So if GDP is not now an exhaustive metrics, it's not a proper metrics anymore because we've got too much problems beyond economic ones. So we need something else. So on the level of the business, of course, we need something else. So Albina, please go to the slide. So I tried to summarize the vision in my team, in the team of the School of Finance in our university, because as we already announced, we are launching the new degree program. At that slide, I tried to summarize most professional challenges. And first, of course, new types of data we will need, people in finance, because we need to describe these new business models. My colleagues were giving all the details and their own personal expert opinion about the changes in the business model. To summarize the first part of that slide, I need to say we should now in finance be so smart that we should manage finally how to measure things that were previously unmeasurable. We need to find these measures, metric, KPIs, and frameworks. Next, if we go now to the new financing and investing concepts. Namrata showed impact investing, social investing, green financing, she mentioned. Of course, we need new approaches, how we are going to develop financing and investing decisions at the level of the company. New frameworks. Third, next, new decision-making frameworks, which should be based on integrated thinking. Stefano was talking about integrated reporting, his love forever, his professional focus. Yeah, but that's very important. I do share that love forever for integrated reporting because it makes a background for integrated thinking. It requires integrated thinking. Of course, it's not an exhaustive list what is here on that slide, but just quickly. We need now to be aware that when we are building financial models, we would incorporate proper scenarios. Namrata was talking about this scenario. Stefano was talking also about this new approaches to scenarios, because they will be built, all these scenarios, with the pre-financial data, this non-financial data. So how we should in finance develop financial modeling, at first developing in details pre-financial data, and then trying to connect this pre-financial data to financial metrics, to some financial results. Of course, we need to develop new business relation framework, because now we need to measure new capitals and to understand their impact on the financial performance, as well as vice versa, to understand how the outcomes, Stefano was talking about this, can impact the capitals themselves. So this is like a circle. Of course, it's really interdependent. So we need to be inside of this circle. People in finance, we need to find the new approaches. If we find the new approaches to this valuation framework, we need to find new approach how we are going to manage the value, because everybody in the business wants to become more wealthy. Of course, every company should become more valuable, but it's not an easy thing, especially in this very complicated world of regenerative economy, within this trade-off between growth and value impact of the growth, at which particular change of value you can grow. Maybe there are some limitations because to the growth. Otherwise, you will not follow this new approach that everybody should be in trustable relationship and the company should be responsible. This is new vision of the economy, new vision of the growth. As for risk management, which was traditionally the finance function in any company, big one or small one, we need to get new concepts for risk management, new toolkits for risk management, because it should be also integrated risk management approach. We need to incorporate multiple capitals, financial and non-financial capitals, into all the procedures of risk management inside of the company. And of course, we cannot provide the financial assessment of the strategy nowadays without these new visions, without these multiple capital approaches. We talked a lot today about this new reporting, and of course, this is not the full list of all these professional challenges. Next slide, please, Albina. I do think we need to talk about new professional tracks as well, because we need to meet all these challenges. Again, this is like a picture, but it's not 100% done, because new challenges are every day appearing, and new answers to all these challenges within the professional tracks will also appear. I would underline that we now need to understand that people who are in finance, they need to manage not only shareholder value, they need to manage stakeholder value creation, preservation, and growth of the stakeholder value. And it's new requirement for the professional skills. We now need to talk not only about becoming chief finance officer, which is really very prestigious, especially in large scale companies. Nowadays, we should talk about, for people in finance, to become chief value officer instead of just chief finance officer, as we thought in the past. Now we need to dream about becoming ESG director for the company. This is new position, and these are new requirements for our professional skills. Integrated risk manager or chief risk manager in the company. Again, new requirements for the skills of future graduates. Risk-based compliance, not just only legal compliance, it's not for people in finance, but risk-based, accordingly to look at all these multiple capitals impact over risk drivers, how we can measure them, how we can build all these scenarios, what is going to change in the risk level of the company, and then to measure and to manage all this risk and to comply with all these factors and control all these factors and report to the board of directors. Of course, if we are talking about the value reporting, we at first need to prepare these qualitative value reports, impact reports. But then there is a huge problem. How we are going to assure all these reports? What should be added to standard auditing procedures for these very unique, very unusual types of the reports? And of course, if we manage all these skills, then people who are in finance and who have these new skills will get new perspective to become members in many boards, independent members, executive members in different companies, in different boards. So to summarize that slide, I would say, to my mind, it's very important to understand integrity in business decision making, because we need now to match this new social perception of the society, of the world, and progress trends in the world to match the ideas of so-called inclusive capitalism or stakeholder-based capitalism. Go back to World Economic Forum for last years. At World Economic Forum, global businesses and governments are discussing these ideas about inclusive or stakeholder-based capitalism. And it, of course, is very relevant, not only for global large-scale companies, but also for small companies and family businesses. Please, next slide. So I now would like to put your attention, to attract your attention that we are offering a new degree program, which meets all these requirements. We are extracting all these lessons, all these new requirements for business analytics. And that's why, first, our program is focused on the new requirements to the data generation, because we need to bear in mind every day that we need to look at multiple capitals, financial capitals, and non-financial capitals, and to measure things which have been still unmeasurable. Next slide, please. Our program will equip everybody who will apply and who will participate in that degree program with new skills, unique knowledge, because we are going to find the answers to these challenges that we already mentioned. How to secure the connectivity between the non-financial capitals, non-financial resources, and financial data, financial metrics, financial performance in the future. So that's the lesson number 2 for our degree program. Albina, next, please. How we are going to do it, how we are going technically do it within the program. This is the program of the Russian University, the platform, which is called Coursera. It's totally online. It should last about 2 years within 3 semesters of intensive studies, different lectures, different workshops and classes, plus master dissertation defense in the 4th semester. Inside the program, we are going to deliver 2 different specializations. At the very end of the program, the student will get qualification Master of Science in Finance with the major in this new business analytics. So what we are offering, we are offering the specialization number 1, which is mostly focused on value-based business analytics. In the next slide, I will try to describe it briefly. And this specialization number 2 is focused on strategic business reporting and assurance, which is about value reporting and impact reporting, all different formats of reporting, but the content is the same. We need to assure that the company is really building and creating the value for different stakeholders, not only to shareholders. So what does it mean to be in one of these specializations, to choose between them? It means that after compulsory courses, about 11 compulsory courses in the program, the student may choose 5 to 6 electives to cover the specialization-specific topics. Then there would be project-centered seminars, workshops on the topics within specializations, and so-called virtual labs. Next slide, please. So these are the examples of the virtual labs we already negotiated. You will see here in the specialization number 1, which is value-based business analytics, that we were talking with different companies. These are not just pure academic people who are running these virtual labs, but those inside that specialization are really very experienced businesses. Lincoln International, this is global investment bank, who also works, of course, in Russia, and we are cooperating with them in our offline programs for some years. And this bank will be delivering the virtual lab about how to adjust this new business analytics to the requirements to understand private equity investments. Now we are in process of negotiating with a very interesting company. ERG means Energy Resource Group. They are positioned in Europe, in Luxembourg, but they are multinational company operating in different countries. And we are talking about making a virtual lab with the title Integrity for Global Businesses, which should be also based on the risk-based compliance. So how you are going to build a compliance function in the business, how you are going to build this integrity to get the value for stakeholders increased. Within the second specialization, which is about strategic business reporting, Stefano Zambon, who reported today, who presented today, who is still with us, already agreed to run his virtual lab. And this is preliminary title for that lab, Advanced Thinking on Multi-Capital Integration in the Reports, Measurement, Metrics, so on and so forth. We are now in process of fixing the virtual lab for professor from Turkey, one of the Turkish university, Güler Aras, but she at the same time is a co-founder and the chair of the Integrated Reporting Association in Turkey. And being in these 2 positions, professor, as Professor Zambon is, and also the chair of the network on integrated reporting, we are discussing with you an opportunity to run the virtual lab on integrated reporting activities. And of course, we will fix the title and the program in few days. That slide is devoted to the global scope of our degree program. That's why we also are going to cooperate, and we already accepted and adopted their initiatives, and we are now in process of signing all the agreements with them. These are the list of professional associations in finance, because we are discussing with them the opportunity to get certification, not only for selected courses from our program, but also for the overall specializations. Next slide, please. I already said that within the specialization, we will have just few courses which are electives. We will have virtual labs I described in the previous slide, and we will have, of course, project seminars. You can see here different examples for different specializations, and it's not the full list yet. And of course, this would be a team-based work. And after the project seminars, after the finalizing the project, this team will present the term paper, and we also accept not only collective or team-based term papers, but also we accept team-based master dissertation thesis. Next slide, please. What you will get after graduation? You will get your skills to be prepared in very different career tracks in finance. They are listed here. I don't think that we need much time to describe each of these tracks. If you will have questions, you can address them to us. And that's why I asked Albina to get the new slide, please. We have to announce that according to the agreement with Coursera, we already prepared so-called open specialization, Introduction to Value-Based Analytics. And it's already available. It's already launched. The courses which are listed here, financial markets, international financial reporting standards, just introductory stage, theory of finance, econometrics, are already in the open, free for you, free of charge area of Coursera courses. And my course, Corporate Finance, will be launched on 31st of May. So why it's important? Because you will get 5 courses which are interrelated. You will go through some home assignments. You will go through the project, which is at the end of any course. And then you can get the certificate that will help you in your universities. And of course, it will help you when you enroll to our program. It's also important because there, going through these courses, you will get the perception about our team. You will get more details about the project itself. And of course, you will be very much exposed to be enrolled into the overall degree program. Next slide, please. Finally, according to the rules in our university, as I already said, the master degree program lasts almost 2 years. And each year you need to cover 60 credits. So that's why you will have, you see here, different compulsory courses. You will have electives, you will have projects. You need to be in 2 projects within 2 years of your work. You need to be in one of the specialization. You need to follow all the virtual labs within your specialization. You need to present your term paper. It could be team-based. And of course, at the end, you will present your master thesis, which also could be team-based or collectively prepared and defended. So there are some technical details. I don't want to spend some time now for these details. So let's go to the next slide. And of course, the admissions are already going. The first cohort will start September 2021. And the second cohort will start February 2022. And you have here some very important information. Of course, it will be given to you. And at that point, I finish my presentation because I think we need already to switch to the question and answers of our participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Irina, for the insights about our program. And yes, we have been receiving the questions from our participants during this time. And let's start with the questions that we get from the questions and answers form. I would like to remind to our participants that you have an option in the bottom of your screen. You have questions and answers bottom, which you can use to ask questions, to ask our speakers directly. Also, if you would like to use your voice to ask your question by your voice, you can raise your hand and we will give you this opportunity as well. Now, may I kindly start from the first question which we received from someone. I believe that was an anonymous participant who didn't provide us his name, unfortunately. But the question is as follows: how do you expect CSRD, formally NFRD in Europe, to fit into the global framework being proposed and expected in September?
I guess it's for me, right?
We spoke about it.
We're going to get into this more details in the third seminar, so I can give you the more, the whole comprehensive picture. Clearly, the intention by the European Commission is that of developing European standards for sustainability reporting, but at the same time to participate in the international convergence processes that are taking place nowadays. So it will be a kind of a double level of operations. And I think it will be challenging. Nobody's saying that it will be easy. But at the same time, the European Commission is definitely, for a number of reasons that I will explain in June, is very well determined to go ahead with their views about sustainable finance, as Namrata said, and the Green Deal, so politically there's a lot of support. And so really the idea could be to have an international global set of standards which will constitute the minimum common denominator, the platform. And the European Commission that's one vision, okay? It's not necessarily will be like that, but so on top, there will be the European Commission legislation and requirements. So that might be, of course, one vision. Many commentators, I do also see this in these terms, but clearly it's a challenging topic. Nobody really can provide an answer right now. But so there will be a two-level sustainability reporting standards harmonization processes.
Thank you, Stefano, for such an extended answer. I can see also, well, maybe we do have any additions from our participants who would like to add. Just give me a hint that you want to add something. All right. Also, we have one more question from Ion, but I believe that Stefano has also answered already through the web about the IR. Simply speaking, IR is about providing more information to the public about companies' activity. The question is, where is the limit of providing information in order to keep satisfied the readers of the reports, financial reports, and at the same time not to affect the competitiveness of the company in the market who is publishing the reports. Maybe this is a barrier in accelerating the IR. That's
Mhm.
quite interesting question.
Well, yes and no, in the sense that I think that integrated reporting, there's a limit which is set by the materiality principle that the Namrata talked about. So you have a materiality principle, means basically that you have to select information that are relevant for value creation in integrated reporting. So integrated reporting is not composed of anything or everything. I mean, you need to select through a serious and rigorous materiality determination process which is the information that should be included and what is should not. In terms of the limits that can be seen for the commercial sensitivity of information, I think this is up to a point is a problem, in the sense that first of all, transparency has a value and brings a value. So not disclosing important aspects can be also become a boomerang to the company. Because first of all, second of all, let me be a bit cynical here. Do you really think that your competitors do not know any lots of things about you? You really think that they're waiting for integrated reporting to know about you? I don't know. I'm too old, perhaps, to reply to that. Anyway, I don't underestimate the value of transparency in terms of reputation. Reputation has a value. I think we all agree. And bad reputation has also a value in negative terms. So I think I remember I posed this question to a CEO of a distribution company, a supermarket company in Italy. I was collaborating with them for their integrated report, and it's quite a big thing. And they said many people think that you disclosing too many information about your company and the business model and what is the average sale in the average sale in all the supermarkets and all the points of sale they used to have. And he said, well, we don't care, because as soon as the competitors will know that, we will move ahead. So in a sense, the game here, the rule of the game is always to be a step ahead of the competitors. So when the competitors get to know certain information about us, they're already old, so to speak, because we already moved on. So yeah, it's commercial sensitivity is a sensitive topic, of course, but it's not necessarily the only one consideration that should be, thought of.
Great. I do agree, actually, and I think that we probably can have many answers, more extended answers on this question as well. But it's always a discussable issue in our terms. Yeah, let me move to other questions also. Now that the companies have started recognizing these challenging metrics targeted by TCFD, won't this slow down or deter the framework adaptation? Um, do we have one?
I guess I should say something about TCFD. Clearly, TCFD is challenging. However, as I said, IFRS Foundation is going to set up in October a new board on sustainability standards, sustainability reporting standards, sorry. This means that sooner or later, all the companies have to deal with that. So as always, is always a change, a big change, takes time. But, as Namrata said, I mean, this is the way we're going to. I mean, so, you may resist to some extent, but sooner or later you have to adapt. And TCFD is challenging, but if also IFRS Foundation is going to use TCFD recommendations as a basis for the new standards, then you will sooner or later you need to adapt. So takes time. There will be new technological developments, new software, so helping you, of course. But that's the way. It's quite clear. I think personally, I see quite well the way ahead. So takes time, difficult. Life is difficult, of course. So we know that.
Right. Do I have any additions? Nobody wants to add. Well, that's probably the full answer actually to the question, as much as we can provide. The other question comes about the that's actually also a question addressed to Stefano. So
You want to make me work today? Oh my God.
that's too expensive, I believe. How do you view the building block approach to corporate reporting suggested by IFAC last week?
Yeah, building block is the expression that is now fashionable when in order to put together the alphabet soup, to consolidate the alphabet soup, there they use the building block approach. So there will be different building blocks. So there will be IFRS Foundation, Value Reporting Foundation, European Commission. So all of those are building blocks in a sense, which is of course a political expression to try to accommodate a difficult, to try to find a solution in a difficult environment, because what we've been discussing today is not an easy process, it's a political process. I think we have grown up enough to understand that to put together all this, it's not simple. It's not a simple 1 + 1 = 2. So it's a complicated, so building blocks is, as I said, is a political expression. It's a good idea. However, last week I was speaking with the new incoming chair of ISB, so the financial reporting, that is a good friend of mine, and he said, building blocks, according to his words, building blocks is a great approach. However, European Commission thinks that the IFRS Foundation should do 5%, and the European Commission should do 95%. Whilst on the contrary, SASB and Value Reporting Foundation thinks that they have to do 50%, and the European Commission only 40% or 50%. So nobody's clarifying the height of the of the building blocks. So it's clearly a political expression. Clearly must be like that, but the proportion between the building blocks is not that clear at the moment. So it's a political issue at the moment. So sorry, I don't have a magic formula to suggest to you at the moment.
Nevertheless, that's quite interesting. These new terms that come from the discussions and that are used by practitioners in academia and even at the higher levels. I can see also the hand which was raised by Ion. Ion, do you want to use your voice to ask the question?
Anna, we also have a few questions about the program in the QA section and in the chat.
That's right. We have the question about the job prospects in Russia after MBA degree.
Yeah.
I believe that
I
will answer.
Yeah. I will give some details. Two very important facts. First, Moscow Exchange finalized the guidelines for sustainability reporting for all companies which are going to be listed in the exchange. What does it say for us, to answer your question? All publicly traded companies will be obliged to follow the guidelines. Next very important event. Now in Russia, we are building so-called integrated reporting committee. And already we made translation to Russian of integrated reporting guidelines. I guess we are the first country who succeeded to translate, to interpret the guidelines, which of course are in English, into the national language. We expect that this Russian version of these guidelines of integrated reporting framework will be released, will be published at the beginning of June at least. So it's really very fast moving project. Third, when building this integrated reporting committee, we are now building the relationship with the Central Bank of Russia, with the Ministry of Finance, with the Ministry of Economy and Trade, so on and so forth, and of course, with different business associations, as Russian Association of Managers, let's say, or CFOs of Russia Association. What does it mean? Because it means that they will join that activity, they will support that activity. And it means that there is an official recognition of the need for the Russian businesses to follow all these concepts, all these new challenges. Last but not the least, last Tuesday, this week, I was running the course which is called Value-Based Management for our offline program, which is called Corporate Finance, Applied Corporate Finance. And I invited the Russian director for ESG from the big Russian metallurgical company, which is called Novolipetsky Kombinat, NMLK. This person was lecturing in my course, showing what he already made with the ESG approach to the business, how they already measured the effectiveness of this approach for the overall company. But he was involved into my course, which is called Value-Based Management, not ESG, not Sustainable Finance. And he already started showing, and he will return back in a few weeks up to the mid of June, showing how the Russian company NMLK is applying this idea to manage the growth of the value, looking from different angles, different aspects, not only traditional, but also from the non-traditional point of view, which is multiple capitals approach. Stefano was talking about it. And Namrata also joined this discussion because she showed that ecosystem is becoming digital, ecosystem is becoming more social, so on and so forth. So for Russians, I'm proud to say that, you know, this is like a break-even year, starting from the autumn 2020 up to nowadays, up to 14th of May, we are fastly moving, much faster than we made it before. Why? Because we now feel really 200% all the changes in the globe. Russia is a big country, and Russia cannot escape all these trends for sure. So for those who are in Russia, think hard about your future professional directions and tracks. We are used to train many students in finance. We are very competitive school, as I said, in finance in Russia. But what we are doing now, we are making this global program, global shift in education, global project, which would be in English at Coursera, to provide an opportunity not only to Russian-speaking students join us from Russia, from other countries, but also from different places in the world. We already have admissions from India. We have admissions from other Asian countries. We have admissions even from Spain. We are waiting admissions, Stefano, from Italy, because we've already got from Spain. We are talking to people from Russia, of course, and that's remarkable because due to COVID, we are now very used, everybody, to work online. Due to all the shifts, new positive trends in the world, in the business environment, in the requirements for people who would be involved into business, we now pretty much well understand what should be new in education. So this is really unique program. And you can see here that for September cohort, we already are making all these admissions. We need the portfolio. If Albina, you list a little bit further, you will find the slide with the portfolio criteria, because there was some question to us about the portfolio.
No, it's not Albina's.
Could you close, please, Professor, and I will show right now.
Okay.
The purpose was why I opened that slide. I wanted to add to the discussion of future professional growth in Russia and internationally, since we are doing this with our partners, with professional organizations, ICPA and ACCA. You will definitely get a good job, get good chances to get a good job. So that's important also to mention, that professional qualification provided by our partners also matters, right? And they also are doing steps towards this sustainable development by providing new programs and certificates. And in this sense, we are in line with the global trends. Well, I think that we can answer about the portfolio in more detail by scheduling the personal meeting, direct meeting with the directors or with our representatives. I believe that we have answered all the questions. Am I correct?
No, there's also a question I am trying to answer in a written form from David Songa.
Okay.
It's in the question and answers.
Coming from a manufacturing background.
Yes.
Not finance. What advantage does this course improve my credentials, and what sort of analytics am I looking forward towards? Okay, so
so I already mentioned the Russian manager from NMLK metallurgical company. He is he got his background, he got his education partially in Kazakhstan when he was born, but he's Russian. And then he moved for the master level, he moved to Canada within his career. And he got a business education, but going back to metallurgical company, can you imagine to be director of ESG? You should know technology pretty well. You should know many engineering details. You should know really well engineering stuff in such a company. Your way would be like vice versa. You are already in the technical side. You can add to your skills this new vision how to run the business, combining technical knowledge and new metrics to understand the efficiency of the company, to understand the value creation processes, to understand the business model of the company, and to understand this new mode of thinking, which Stefano called integrated thinking. And I also joined his idea about the integrated thinking. You may also become you may also make your first steps in the new career track, which I tried to explain, risk-based compliance, because it means you need to understand all technical drivers of the risk, environmental drivers of the risk, social drivers of the risk, all the metrics, and work together with people in finance just very closely and become a very fashioned person in risk-based compliance. So there are a variety of actions. To be sure, in our offline master degree programs in finance, we have many people with first technical background, just engineering background, because this is a trend in a new world. You need to be a fast-moving person within your professional life. And maybe at some point in your career, which is based on your technical background, you of course need to become more flexible and to get very new ideas, very new vision and combine this, especially because you will work online in that program. At any point in your country, at any point in time, you have it comfortable, because only lectures of the courses would be predetermined. They will be video, you can use them at any time you can, and you will be flexible with this, but virtual labs and project workshops, they will be set up by some particular time in your schedule. So to get more details about the admissions, please join us next week at 18th of May and so-called admission webinar. And Anna, please introduce your colleagues in the team.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Irina. I think that that's a good point to wrap up actually our meeting, especially that our guests, I believe they have some plans and need to leave us, but still we would like to share with you our upcoming news about the upcoming webinars. As Professor Irina mentioned, on May 18th, quite shortly, we will have the next admissions webinar, which actually will introduce you with the specifics of how to build your best portfolio, how to write a good essay, and how to use all the opportunities to join our new program. We also would like to introduce you our new webinar, which will be held together with the professionals from ACPA representatives, and we will introduce you something interesting during this webinar. I'm sure you will definitely like it, especially if you are already joining our Coursera courses. I know that we have participants from our courses also here. So if you want to extend your practice, please join us on May 27th as well. You'll have an opportunity to speak directly to the ACPA representatives. And also we will have an upcoming webinar later in June, which will follow this series, the third webinar from this series with Stefano Zambon as well. And yes, we will be happy, our team will be happy to meet you during all these events which we have planned for you, Professor Irina, Joe, Albina, myself. So please do not hesitate, and we will be happy to see you in our next meetings.
I would like also to add a little bit, saying that you'd better write to our manager, Albina. We can set up direct web meeting online, of course, with you personally, answer your personal concerns and questions, and you can show us or just describe which documents you have. We can make a preliminary evaluation or assessment of your portfolio. It concerns all participants from Russia, from many other countries. Despite you already graduated or you are going to graduate in June, it doesn't matter. This preliminary admission is really effective device to be sure that you found everything which is really important for your professional development. Okay.
Thank you very much,
everybody. And now we are closing. Thank you, Stefano.
Bye to everyone. See you during our next webinars.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And see you next webinar.
Thank you, Albina. Thank you, Anna. Bye.
До свидания.